Hello everyone, I am Dr. Nishmita. I am an internal medicine physician and a geriatrician. While I wear those titles today, my journey started with something very simple, a love for biology. The perfectly balanced systems of the human body made me wonder at the work of the divine and marvel at not just what we treat, but what we are made of. How we age and how we care for those who age tells us everything about who we are as a society. And today, I'm here to ask, can we redefine aging? Before I begin, how many of you have ever felt the need to hide your age? Can you remember the first time that you felt old? For some people, it is that white hair. For others, it is that sound your knees make every time you get up. For most people, it is when your neighbor's kid calls you auntie or uncle. Let me tell you a story. A story from Bhagavata Purana about a king called Yayati. Yayati was a powerful ruler. He had everything at his disposal. Youth, wealth, power, pleasure, everything. But he was cursed with premature aging. One moment, he is the king. The next, he is bent, bald, and breathless. But Yayati wanted to live the good life. So what did he do? He begged his sons for their youth in exchange of his old age. Now you would think, what kind of a deal is that? But Puru, his youngest son, agreed. So Yayati lived, loved, and laughed for 1,000 years before realizing there is no end to desire. So here's the thing. What if aging isn't what we have been told it is? We have been given a flawed script. Society talks about aging like it's a disease. We fight wrinkles like they are invaders. If you really think about it, aging is the only way to stay alive. We congratulate each other on our birthdays till we are 40. Then we say 40 is the new 30. But why does 40 has to be the new anything? So I love this story, not because I love the story of Yayati, not because it is ancient and dramatic, but because it is relevant even today. We are all Yayatis. We don't want to age. We want the wisdom of experience, but the needs of a 25-year-old. From Yayati's youth swapping to ancient elixirs to biohacking billionaires, they are all chasing the same dream of staying young forever. Now let me ask you something. Do we really want to live forever? What nobody tells us about the myth of forever is, if every moment is precious, there is no moment that is urgent, no moment that is sacred. It is mortality that gives life its sharpness. It is the knowledge that our time is limited that pushes us to love deeply, work to the best of our abilities, and leave behind a legacy. We don't need forever. We just need to live fully within the finite time that we have. And ancient wisdom says it best. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam. Iha samsare, bahudustare, kripaya pare, pahi murare. Now, we are in the middle of a massive demographic shift. People are living longer than ever before. At the time of independence, our life expectancy was around 32 years. Now, we have crossed 70. So, the lifespan has increased, yes. But the health span, the years that we spent in good life, has not increased proportionately. We are pushing diseases closer to the end of life so that our final years are filled with dependency and decline. This is called compression of morbidity. The fear of aging is centered around this. So, what we need to do to live a better life is not to extend youth, but to equip our later years with better health. Don't get me wrong. I am not against staying young. Today, we are all chasing age reversal, biohacking our epigenetic clocks, cold plunging, fasting, and injecting peptides. But here's the irony. We are all trying to reverse our age without gaining the wisdom that is supposed to accompany it. We are erasing years off our face, but not earning them in our soul. So, what are we really reversing? Also, there is this strange modern tragedy. We postpone joy. We say things like, I will write a book after I retire. I will travel the world once I'm 60. I will finally relax when everything else is done. But by the time everything else is done, we are either booking an MRI or lugging pillboxes or climbing stairs with rails. This reminds me of Erik Erikson, a psychologist. So he talked about something called integrity versus despair in the last stage of human growth. Integrity is when we look back at our life and ask ourselves, did I live well? Was my life meaningful? If the answer is yes, we feel something called integrity. That is a kind of peace. If the answer is no, we feel despair and a sense of regret. The whole point is to reach that final chapter of life, not bitter, but whole. Now, aging is not set in stone. Two people aged 70 years can live entirely different lives, not based on luck, but based on the choices they make. How frequently they exercise, how well controlled their comorbidities are, or whether they have been successful in stalling them altogether. Do they have a support system to fall back on in case of decline? When I started seeing patients, especially older ones, I realized something profound. Aging is not just medical. It is social, it is emotional, it is existential. We cannot treat blood pressure without understanding loneliness. We cannot prevent falls without understanding fear. We cannot understand heart attacks without acknowledging heartbreaks. So, today's generation, what is happening? The older adults aren't just getting old. They are juggling diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, dementia, sometimes all at once. So this is where geriatric care plays an important role. We must understand healthcare for the elderly is not adult care with larger font sizes. It is different. Two people who are aged 70, as I said, will age differently. A 70-year-old with hypertension, arthritis, and dementia is not a checklist. They are a walking interplay of physical, psychological, and social factors. Mrs. Rao is a 70-year-old who comes to the clinic holding her granddaughter's knife. She's a retired school teacher. She says things like, I have forgotten my favorite recipes. She skips her walks frequently, and she brushes it off saying, I'm just getting old. But I see more. That is why I focus on frailty checks. Because identifying vulnerability early prevents future declines. Fall risk and sarcopenia, because a single fall can take away years of independence. Dementia prevention, because memory loss is not inevitable, we can support brain health. Adult immunization, because our elders also deserve the same amount of immunity that we insist on in children. And most importantly, osteoporosis prevention, because bones don't shout until they shatter. We don't have to wait for people to break down. We can build them up before. Now, imagine a 100-year-old lifting their own suitcase, climbing stairs, and dancing at their great-grandchild's wedding. Sounds far-fetched, right? Now, what if I told you there are people like this living in the blue zones who live considerably longer than the rest of the world? That there are super-agers whose memory will put any 30-year-old to shame. What are they doing differently? Not gyms and marathons, but moving naturally. They eat a plant-based diet and they eat mindfully. They stop when they're around 80% full. They have a strong sense of purpose in life, and they have stress reduction routines like naps, gatherings, and prayers. So the goal is not to avoid death. The goal is to become functional at 100 years old. We stress so much about FIRE. FIRE is financial independence, retire early. But for our generation, what we need is functional longevity and everyday excellence. I call it FLEX. This is what we need for our next generation. We teach our children everything: maths, coding, photosynthesis, Shakespeare, all in the hopes that they will crack some exam, build a career, earn a living. But we hardly talk to them about taking care of the only thing they will carry with them their entire life. That is their body, their mind, and their aging self. We don't talk to children about what it is to get old, because aging well does not begin at 60. It begins with what we believe at 16. So, I always insist that children should be made aware of all of this. What if children knew that building healthy habits now can prevent or delay the onset of life-threatening comorbidities in the future? That food is not just fuel, it is also medicine. That relationships are not distractions, they are buffer against decline. That how they take care of their grandparents today is how they will take care of themselves one day. Today, I am standing in front of you, not with all the answers, but deep questions and a burning desire to change the way how we think about aging. I want a society where growing old is not considered growing invisible, but becoming more whole, vibrant, and valuable. So let's not ask how to stay young, but ask how do I stay curious, connected, and capable all the way to 100 and beyond. So let's not just age, let's flex it. Thank you so much.